Hello, it's Film Frenzy, and today I'm very excited to talk about the latest racial biopic starring Taraji P. Henson and Sam Rockwell, The Best of Enemies, starting with my first category, Direction and Visuals. For direction and visuals, I feel like this movie really excels. Often these biopics or based on true story films are kind of by the numbers in terms of their direction and cinematography, but I thought this one really did excel. When it featured those wide panoramic shots, they were really excellent. There's a lot of great close-ups of the characters when they were acting and talking to each other. That really just added to the performances and the potency of the dialogue, and I thought that was really great. The shots were really well done. It was very smooth between shots, like with their transitions, except for one scene towards the end of the film, which I'm convinced the editor just fell asleep on his keyboard, and by accident they made that into the final cut, because there's these two cuts that are absolutely ridiculous how they ended up in the film. Not really sure how that happened, but other than that, it's very smooth. The shots are really great, really just shows the meaning of the film very well. It conveys it very well in this visual medium of film, and I don't really have any problems with it whatsoever. So I'm giving it a perfect 5 stars. No, it's not going to have groundbreaking visual effects or anything like that, or features the most beautiful cinematography of all time. That's not what this is trying to do, but for the type of movie it is, I think it really did excel in regards to the visual aspects, so I gotta give it a 5 stars here. Now it's time to discuss The Best of Enemies acting and character development. I just want to set the record straight and say that I think the acting in this movie is phenomenal. It is top notch when you see that the leads are Sam Rockwell and Taraji P. Henson, who are two phenomenal actors at the top of their game in recent years. You know it's going to be at least a pretty solid movie just because of those two leads attached. When you get both of them, it's probably not going to be a bad movie. They're not going to sign on for that. And Sam Rockwell's on this hot streak of all these Oscar nominations and wins. And I hope that continues with this, because I think he's absolutely phenomenal. He deserves the best Oscar nomination just for this movie. I haven't seen many other contenders yet, but I feel like just from this one alone, I think that he should be nominated. And same with Taraji P. Henson for Best Lead Actress. She was great in this movie. They had such a great dynamic, and it was really impressive how much they did with how they deliver their lines, but also just from their posture, how they walked around, their gestures, and their facial expressions delivered so much, conveyed so much meaning. I thought that was really impressive. There's so many great actors. The rest of the cast is also phenomenal. All the supporting ones, they're very well cast. Another great one was Babao Ceesay. I probably pronounced his name wrong. Sorry about that. Not familiar with him, but he was great as the person that led the charrette, which is the whole thing where there's like the entire community is all gathered together to talk about the school integration, and that's how C.P. Ellis and Ann Atwater originally kind of become friends by the end of it. And I thought that was really great how their dynamic was, and how Ceesay's character kind of mediated the entire thing. He was very believable. I thought all the acting was so believable and realistic, and that was great, because these movies can oftentimes just kind of soar into like fantasy mode, and this is based on a true story, and I think it stayed really grounded, and part of that is because of the acting. Also for the script, which I'll talk about later. I also want to mention with the character development that I think it was mostly really excellent, especially with the lead characters, because I learned about in psychology that people don't really actually change who they are deep inside. They just might put on a different outward persona. I think that was really well evidenced. I've never seen a movie this well how it's able to show a lead character's growth, and that they had it all along, and that it was just, he had this fake facade, and that was great, and he tricked himself into believing it, and you really understand why he went to Ku Klux Klan. I feel like they've never really shown it in a movie before, like about the KKK, like what draws these people in besides just the pure racism and hate. And he talks about the brotherhood, and like you kind of understand, like obviously brotherhood's like a good thing, right? And like community, and how he was poor, and it was helping him just like just provide for his family and have people that are supporting him, and that makes sense. And then he finally renounces their main beliefs, and yes, it's very predictable in this regards, but it is still great. And you see that he has a good heart all along. It's just that Ann Atwater was able to draw it out of him. Plus, I love how she changes as a character, and how she starts listening more to what other people have to say. And she keeps her great like stubbornness and just steadfast qualities in terms of just being really high in integrity and doing what she believes in and doing great for other people. but like she also becomes more understanding of other people, and it's really great, their dynamic. I thought that their change in characters was much more believable than that in Green Book, which I think that's a great movie. Despite all those controversies, I think this one was a better dynamic in how they grow as characters. It was more believable, more subtle, and I really, really appreciated that. The other characters don't get a ton to do, and I would have liked to see almost a little bit more character development of some of the other KKK members, because, like, he can't be the only one. Like, they can't just all be one-dimensional characters that are just pure evil. Like, obviously lots of them are going to be, but there's got to be some reason. I felt like they didn't really show it. I mean, that's understandable. This isn't the type of movie that's just going to show all the different KKK members. But I just thought it was something, like, if they're going to show this guy, maybe it would be interesting, even if they're pure evil, to just show a little bit of dimensions to them. But overall, this is really solid category. I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5, especially for those lead two characters that do such a great job, so well acted, so well developed. And my final category to discuss are the key story elements of plot, pacing, script, and theme. I found the plot to be rather solid. I mean, it's based on such a great premise. This story has to be made into a movie, right? About how this former KKK leader turns into the civil rights activist. So, right off the bat, it's got a great premise, and I think it executes it very well. I'm going to say that right now. I was very, very pleased with the movie. And I think although there are times where it gets a bit repetitive, because it's at 2 hours and 13 minutes, I think that was a bit overlong. This film really doesn't need to be that long. I would cut off a good 20 minutes, because there's some scenes that just don't need to be there and just could be referenced in the next scene, or where it just got repetitive and like I feel like they just showed it over again in a different way. In my opinion, each scene should accomplish a different purpose and a certain purpose and should be there for a reason. If it's not necessary, it should be cut, because conciseness is very, very important. And so, unfortunately, it did suffer a bit with that, but overall I thought the plot was very good. The pacing, albeit quite slow, I was fine with that. I thought it was really consistent throughout. Maybe got a little bit of hiccups at the end when I thought it was going to end like 10 minutes before it did, because there was like some false endings in there, and I don't really like when movies have those false endings, because it just gives like a little bit of sense of closure, and then it keeps on going and just gets you out of the mood of the movie, and I don't think that's a good thing at all. But besides that, the pacing was very solid and consistent, and I thought the plot was very, very good also. And with script, I thought it was very, very well done. And honestly, if the script wasn't very good, I'd probably have a much bigger problem with the plot being repetitive. But since the individual scenes were very well done, like they were very well directed, acted, like I said before, but they were also very well written. There was some cheesy dialogue at the beginning of the movie, but that mostly dissipated. And I thought the movie really secured a solid tone, where it wasn't as goofy and silly, even though I love it as Green Book. This was a more like, had some humor, but it was mostly a drama, and I thought it really knew what its tone was, and it nailed it. Totally consistent, and I love that. To see a movie with a completely consistent tone when it's trying to do drama and comedy, especially with such a touchy subject as like racism, that's really impressive, especially when they pull it off. So I commend the film on that. And it was one writer-director, Robin Bissell. It's like, I think their writing directing debut for a film they've produced before. I looked at their credits on IMDb. That's really awesome. They did such a great job. Very, very impressed with that. I thought the jokes almost always hit, and the drama was very, very rarely melodramatic, which was great. It felt so earnest, and I love that about it. It was so believable. Part of that, of course, is the actor's delivery, not just the great script, but if it had a bad script, they would not have been able to pull it off. So I really, really was happy with that. There were some lines that were just real stingers that stay with you. So I think the script really pulls into that high level of quality and makes it way above your average biopic film. So that made me really happy. And in terms of themes, they're kind of the predictable themes that you would expect from a film like this, about, you know, togetherness and learning from others. And I also thought it was great how, like, the mediator of it all, the person that started the charade, he's like just saying that you gotta kind of kill your like oppressors with kindness, and eventually they'll realize that you are equals to them and that they gotta stop treating you as inferior beings. And that is accomplished in that. It was just some great optimism that's based out of a real setting. So it's not just some naive optimism that's grounded in no reality. So I thought that was great. I feel like this movie needed to be based on a true story, or else it would just failed miserably, and I'm really glad that it is. I think that it might get some flack from people about it being from like a white man's perspective in terms of racism in that regards and showing them as morally equal. Maybe it's just the bias I came in with, but I never saw them as being presented as morally equals because I thought they really did show that he had a lot more problems, and as I mentioned before, he had a lot more character growth than Anne Atwater did, and I think that reflects the morals of their character from the beginning. Like Anne Atwater, maybe she was a bit of a difficult person sometimes, but she was always a great person throughout the film. The same cannot be said about C.P. Ellis, and I think the change is really great there. So I didn't have a problem with that. Yes, there's going to be a lot of controversies just based on the premise alone, but since it's based on a true story, I think it's okay, and I was very, very content with it. For this story category, though there are some mess-ups, I'm still giving it a very solid 4 out of 5. So that leads me to my overall opinions. And I came to this movie with kind of low expectations. I was a little sketchy because it's coming out in April. This is the type of movie that should be coming out later in the year if it wants to be an Oscar hopeful. So that got me a bit skeptical. Plus the critical embargo, because currently it's Wednesday night, it comes out Friday, and there still haven't been any reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. That's never a good sign for a film. But the thing that led me with some hope was that Sam Rockwell and Taraji P. Henson are the leads, and they are phenomenal actors. And luckily, the latter is what happened with this film, and I came out very, very content with it. It was very enjoyable throughout. Although being way too long, I still enjoyed the entire film because the scenes are so captivating. It ends on a really beautiful, great note. I love when they show the real people at the end of the film, the footage. That was great too. Overall, very well done, high production quality, great acting. I would love to see a script nomination and some acting nominations, maybe even a Best Picture. We'll see what other great films come out later in the year, but overall, I'm giving this film a light 4.5 out of 5. I was really fluctuating between the 4.25 and the 4.5 because I feel like it definitely hit some very high highs but some very low lows at some points, but overall I think it came out on the winning end, and some of these scenes are just so ridiculously amazing that I have to give it this score, and it just makes it such a great movie overall. I highly recommend you go see it. Comment down below your opinions on the film. Currently it's my favorite movie of 2019. I've only seen like 6 movies and I haven't really loved any of them until now, so I really hope you see The Best of Enemies. Highly recommended. I hope you like and subscribe for some more awesome movie reviews, rankings, and other film related content at Film Frenzy. I'll see you guys later. Bye.